What's up, guys?
Hey, hang on. We gotta do this right because this is our most popular video on the channel, and this is Throwback Day. So we're actually gonna hit you with the old school intro. So, what's up, addicts? I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
And today we're back for Who Will Win Bell Part 2, or revised, depending on how you look at it. And this is going to be interesting because this time we're doing it a little bit differently. We're actually doing it as a bracket form. I think that will help keep it less bias, and it'll help, weed out some of the more harder picks. And so we're just going to see how it goes. Some of these are, you're going to see like the heavy hitters of like the good choice from the last video, and then probably some new ones, but obviously the most different thing about it is that was like 2 years ago, and I think the second and third season hadn't aired, and I think we were only up to book 12, or they were about to do the arc that we just finished up on. So a lot has changed. I think this could be an interesting one. So Michael, what are we starting off with here?
So we're gonna start off with one side of the bracket, and then we're gonna do the other side of the bracket.
Okay.
So with the first round, it's gonna be Hestia, which is seed 1 based on her introduction, versus I guess I'd say Anya. And if you don't know who Anya is, here's Josh telling you who this character is.
Well, Anya, I guess the easiest way to remember her is she's kind of like the bubbling, I guess you could call her buffoon of the Benevolent Mistress, although she is still very powerful, and we have seen her interact both with people at the Benevolent Mistress and the Hestia Familia, and she has connections biologically to a certain cat feline man of Freya Familia, being Alan. So that is that recap for you there. Now, this is interesting because, and just to answer questions on the seeding, I guess we should get this out because there's going to be controversy in the seeding probably. We've kind of tried to do it not solely based on ours, but also based on how we felt people saw or seemed to be strongly tied to certain characters, and then also just throwing out seed factoring, as like Michael said, maybe based on like their character interactions with Belle. So that's just to tie it in there. So for this first one, it's really easy for me, and I hate to say that, but maybe that's a good thing. It is Hestia, and I think that just because defaultly she has more interactions with Belle, and obviously like there's the huge factor of like she's the whole reason why he's here and we have the story.
Yeah, and also you have some precious moments from the past when it's just the two of them in the Familia.
Yeah.
If you throw back to those episodes, those are always fun to watch their interactions.
And they just had a really cute kind of like rekindling of their relationship in Volume 15, right, when we got them back at the manor. I don't know why I said it like that. It's not like there was anything like astronomically different about the relationship. You're just having like a nice, it was almost like a callback moment to like when it was just those two, right? So that was sweet.
So let's move on to the 9th seed, which is Seer, versus the 8th seed, which is Freya. Now this is a Hallmark matchup.
It's the same person, dude.
It is the same person. Freya is mildly hotter in the eyes of everyone. In the series, of course.
Yep. And she didn't have to use her magic for that one.
That's true. That's true. So I don't want to. This one's pretty close, but I think just looking forward in the bracket, Seer, we don't know enough about her yet. I think her story isn't done. Neither is Freya's, but I feel like Freya's motivation so far has been more interesting than Seer, and overall we've had some pretty fun interactions between Freya and Belle. Whereas Seer, she's still kind of a wild card at the moment, which we might get to one later, but at this point I'm gonna go with Freya.
Plus, you gotta look at it, even if you're taking the relationship stuff out of the side, like one can kill you by just looking at you, and the other one can kill you through cooking, which I think one is definitely deadlier than the other. But yeah, I think Freya, just from what we learned in like her sides book, there's just some more juicy stuff to happen if she was to get even one date with Belle. So I gotta give her that one just cause.
Okay. So the next one is 5th seed Cassandra, which we will say her seed has gone up a lot in the near future.
Yeah. Wow. Was that on purpose?
No, that wasn't on purpose. In the recent past, she's been very helpful, and we got to see Belle and her have some touching moments. And then we have Aina as well as the 12th seed, which if you remember her, she's the one who is kind of the guild partner lady, and been helping Belle understand the the deeper levels for a long period of time.
Yeah, this one's actually maybe the hardest one on the bracket, or at least on this side of the bracket, because I was thinking about this the other day where it's like Cassandra and Aina, this is almost like a perfect matchup because both of them are like some of the core reasons why Bell has survived the most recent encounters he's had in the dungeon, with Aina giving him like information about the deeper levels even though he wasn't supposed to be there, and then with Cassandra and her foresight ability. So it's really interesting on that aspect, although if I may, the one thing I will say, because of that fact, Aina's gone a little bit better in my book. I still, as a romantic interest, don't consider her nearly as much as some other people do. But I will say, probably primarily because of that, is because I've always thought, out of all of the women in Danmachi, and especially the ones that interact with Bell and maybe have an interest in him, I feel like Aina's like the most closely representative to a older sister than any of the other ones. And I think probably for that reason, I would say it's got to go to Cassandra for me. Michael, do you have a different opinion on that?
No, it's actually pretty close. I mean, I like Aina more than Josh does, but which I think was in our first video as well. But Cassandra's just because of recent events, and we'll see in the near future. I'm excited to see.
I saw it in the future. You would agree with me, so.
Okay, I haven't.
I just didn't have a crazy like poem to go with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. Hopefully, it doesn't spell doom and disaster later in the bracket.
Okay, so I will finish off this, and then Josh will announce the second half of the bracket. So this is our last matchup for the first round. And this side of the bracket, it's Haruhime or Haruhime, or however you want to say it.
Yeah, if you've been with us for a while, you've probably gotten used to say it the wrong way just as much as us.
That's the 4 seed versus Tiona.
Yeah, I think
one of those.
Good, yeah,
one of those. Which she is the character that one of our fans is really obsessed with, and also likes not the one from the Eyes or Loki Familia that likes their leader, but she's the one. You can see her in season 3 as well as the one that refuses to kill the monsters straight up.
You know, I hate to be that guy, Michael, but
she does have a defining characteristic that I'm not talking about yet.
No. What I was gonna say is I hate to be that guy, but I think I have to play devil's advocate, because I know there's a lot of people that like reading Sword or Tarot, whatever. You know, you can have it. But I will play devil's advocate and say that Tiona, at least in Sword Oteria, I feel like is probably a bigger character, so there's probably more reasons for her to stand over Haruhime. If you are a reader from that series, I can't say it because I haven't read, and I don't agree with that. But I'm just saying, like, I could see where there might be some different opinions there. As far as in the mainline series, and also, like, at the end of the day, I think we got to go with the mainline series as the holy Bible for Danmachi, just because you know, that's where Bell is, and that's what we're talking about ultimately, is who ends up with him, right? So Haruhime, I mean, she was rescued personally by Bell, and also they share a lot of things in their youth as common interests, so I think you got to go with Haruhime.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that as well. No argument here, and just to keep the video from being 2 hours long, I think Haruhime. There's just too many cute interaction, especially with Wiene in season, I think, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It's just not comparable for me.
It's like if Bell wanted to, he could quit adventuring today and have a family of a wife and a nice daughter.
Zeus would be happy, wouldn't he?
Yep. He'd say you got a good one. Anyway, getting on to the second half of the bracket, I guess I'll start narrating here. We got the 3rd seed Lily versus the 14th seed, which is the wild card, which I actually worked out perfectly because I only know of the wild card, and I'm going to give it to Michael right now. He has no idea who it is, so he had no prep work for this. And the wild card is Welf.
Oh, that's an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
So, Lily's a really good character. We've seen her a lot. She's developed. Hopefully we don't, well, not to be rude, but I don't want to see another half book about her past, because we kind of have delved into that in volume 15 and in the other elements that I'm kind of like, I'm done with her past. Let's see her in the future. But no, overall, I think she's a core part of the Familia. She's also like the money person, which cracks me up. and the strategist, and what she did in the war games just alone. That was pretty sick.
But Welf is his best friend.
Yeah, but Welf has
his bro.
Welf is a great character, and if he didn't have another love interest himself, then I would totally pick Welf. But since he's loving that god who is a blacksmith, I think I got to give it to Lily.
Fair enough.
Any other matchup, I might have given Welf a chance, but against Lily, it's just it's close, but not quite.
I just found how funny that was because I didn't even think 3 and 14 was going to go together, and it's just ironic that Lily and Welf are even pitted against each other outside of the book. So
they have a good dynamic as two characters anyway. It's fun.
So this next one is going to ruffle a bunch of feathers, but we're going to get right out of it. We didn't want this number with this character, but we gave it to you as a token of our appreciation for you guys watching. So you got the number 6 seed Eyes versus the number 11 seed Wiene.
Yeah, he was trying to read my handwriting there. Yeah, so...
Made great for dramatic effect, anyway.
It did. So, the only thing against Wiene, why Wiene is kind of seated so low, is just because she is young, and we've seen Wiene more as a, younger sister or like a child.
Like a daughter
to Belle, whereas Eyes has been a key character, a core character since the beginning. She does deserve credit for getting Belle to level up so fast and find someone to inspire to be like, as far as power level, not necessarily character. And she is cool, and we have a lot of people that like Eyes. Honestly, if this was any other tournament, I think Wiene would be a go-to winner or advancer, at least to the Elite 8 or the Final 4. But honestly, I'm going to go with Eyes here just for the fans that love her. And we have a decent matchup in the next round. And overall, Wiene's cute. And she's going to be part of the family, but probably not going to be with Belle in that capacity.
Yeah, and I'll give it to Eyes on this one just because of the points you said. And also, just from what we've seen in the last several more recent books, Wiene has kind of stayed into that same role that you kind of described, and Eyes has not had any change with Belle's relationship at all, which is kind of weird and probably the weakest part of the series, to be honest. But I think because of that, it defaultly has to go with Eyes in terms of probability. So, yep, unfortunate, but we gave it. But I agree, the next one's gonna be good. So you have the number 7 seed Aisha versus the number 10 seed,
Artemis.
Oh my gosh. Throwback to the movie, which we didn't get to watch before the previous video, so that's also interesting because never before talked about. So what do you think about this one?
Again, in the interest of brevity, I'm going to go Artemis. Aisha is an interesting character. I like the dynamic with Aisha, Liu, and Belle, but overall Artemis has... they danced together. He was the first, and it also retconned that Eyes was the first person he danced with. So that's hype.
And it's canon, so it's gotta be. It's even better.
So do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I gotta go with that because Aisha is one of those interesting ones where I don't necessarily think it was ever totally serious of a probability that she was going to be with Belle, but I think it's even more so kind of demonstrated from the last arc when we got a different side of her. She kind of got out of that more flirtatious, oh, I want you and I don't matter how I'm going to get it, I'll get with you eventually kind of mentality and character, as more of the strategic supporting and giving pointers, and also just being the person that they can rely on too. For power levels, right? So I kind of like where she's going now, but unfortunately, the direction that she's going, I think it's leading farther away from Belle being a possibility.
Okay.
So we got the last one in the first rounds of the bracket. We got the number 15 seed with Chloe, and then you have the number 2 seed Liu.
Liu wins.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
move on. We don't even need to. Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's stay on this side of the bracket, and I'll do the full time this round. We'll go a little bit faster since we're running a little bit out of time. So we got Liu versus Artemis. They have very similar stories if you follow the movie and then the recent volumes with the Liu arc. Overall, I like the dynamic between Artemis and Belle, where one represents justice, and Belle's kind of in that same field of trying to be a hero and save the world and create his own code. Mm-hmm. So I like that. and I like the relationship that they have. But since, I mean, spoilers for the movie, Artemis wasn't really around fully, and Belle was around, so I'm gonna have to. Liu's just, it's a cooler dynamic. We're gonna see it continue to evolve, and I love how one of the highlights of Volume 15 is how realistic the relationships developed between Liu and Belle, where there was some awkwardness after that arc.
Yeah.
So that's what my vote is gonna be.
It's time and time again, Liu's just been one of those that's consistently gotten better, and especially in this vein, it's one of those that's grown on me so much more than I thought it ever would when I first got introduced to her character. And like you said, Artemis, as interesting as her character is, and I actually would put her up pretty highly if I was just going to rank them individually, they are very similar, so that is part of it. And knowing that like Artemis is just in the movie and probably is going to just stay in that one movie, I think Liu's got definitely the upper hand in that deal.
But 10,000 years from now, they are dancing. That's confirmed. So.
Yep, before he gets reincarnated again. That is if Hestia doesn't butt in for the dance.
That's true. Okay, so the next one is Lily versus Eyes. I'm going to let Josh debate this one, and I'm voting Lily.
So, I think if we're... Okay. I think just basing our own rules into the situation where this, you know, we're given like our input of what we'd like to see and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, this is kind of like who's the most probable and who has the best shot given like all of the narrative threads they've seen before it. And I feel like Eyes has got this like what do you call it, the plot armor almost, and Lily is like a pretty good candidate, but I don't think she can penetrate that plot armor. So I think I got to go Eyes on this one. So and I'll give you this. So like Lily has, I think her character has grown past needing Belle at this point. Again, like it is kind of like it would still be really cool because of how long that they've been together and she's been with him throughout all of this, and I think she continues to develop into a very great character. But I think especially seeing like this you know, leveling up and her kind of almost becoming a, I don't want to say like a separate group or a separate faction, but she, in a way, she's sort of developing away from Belle because she's going to be, you know, like the leader for the rest of their core people while Belle can go off and, you know, actually, you know, do what needs to be done. So I feel like in turn that's going to lead to less interactions, less instances for that relationship to really blossom and grow. Whereas Eyes, he'll fit it in wherever it seems plausible with him, and also just because of the unrealistic standard of having that one be like supposedly the number one at the beginning of the story. So
as long as you acknowledge and you do agree that Lily's a better character and would be a better fit for Belle, I'm fine with Eyes advancing. It is true though that we've had fewer and fewer interactions between Belle and Eyes as the series has continued, but I do understand where you're going with that.
Yeah, well, and the other reason why I say that is because it's already confirmed that Eyes is going to have a really big element to play in the next book, so I'm sure like there's going to be some building off of that as well.
Ooh, as long as they don't kiss or anything. I refuse this.
Yeah, he can't kiss it. I'll riot. All right. So I guess I'll do this other side going in here. So we have Freya going up against Hestia, the battle of the gods.
They are probably the most likely gods to want to be with Belle. I think they overall, Freya's an interesting character, and I think the relationship where she's pursuing Belle is interesting. But I think I just have to give it to Hestia because just the likability of the character, her always being there. They continue to evolve their relationship, and it's I don't know, it's just a wholesome ending. I think like Hestia, it would be a wholesome ending. It would be probable, and I think it would be just fun.
So you're going to call me a hypocrite, or somebody out there is, because I used the same point to argue a different way that I am now. But again, I will say like Freya is one of those that we've seen glimpses of her character, even more so in her side book, which I really did like, and I liked what I saw because it's one of those where you're like, ooh, I still like her, but like there's some things that wouldn't be great for Belle. But on the same flip side, it's like there hasn't been that many interactions. I mean, the interactions she has gotten with Belle are pretty funny, and I do like it a lot. But in terms of like a realistic like outcome of them being together, I don't think it's going in that direction. Again, she's gonna have, or at least Freya Familia is gonna have a big preference in the next volume, so things could change. But I think Hestia's got the history on her side, and obviously Belle really admires her, so I think that's already something that you gotta consider, because at the end of the day, is Freya going to really win over Belle at all? I don't think so. I think she's gonna try to do it the maybe sort of seeded way. But anyway, that answers that question. So,
all right, so our next matchup is Cassandra.
It's Cassandra and Haruhime.
So this is the 4-5 here.
Yep.
Cassandra has gotten a lot more favorable over the time, and I do like how she appreciates Belle, because Belle's the only one that believes her and takes her advice seriously. But overall, just Haruhime is... There's too many great scenes between the two of them that I've mentioned before, and like Josh said, Belle did go out of his way to save her.
Yeah, I think there's just too much, like, because I think in terms of probably like from like an author standpoint, he's probably trying to think too, like, what's already meshing really well on a character level that like fans won't rage at. And I think if you're just looking at the chemistry of the two characters, I think Haruhime definitely has the upper hand, just because they already have stuff in common. They already have that. I mean, come on, it's kind of hard to like resist somebody that you've got that like almost life and death scenario, and they like stuck your neck out there, even though it might have meant sudden death. So yeah, I think Haruhime's consistently proven that love over and over again too as well. So Haruhime for sure. Now we're going on the opposite side of the board to discuss that. So we got Eyes and Liu, and this one I'm not as well, I'll let you go first.
Okay, I can go first since mine is clear. So like I said, we've expressed a lot in this channel that we don't really like Aiza's lack of personality, lack of individuality,
and there's definitely good examples that we've mentioned before that you can go find.
You can find many good examples. I think one which that they kind of watered down in the anime, probably because they realized that Aiza's going to be a bigger character in the future, is the interaction where she's attacking Wiene and attacking Belle whereas they're trying to rescue the Xenos. You can kind of see that she doesn't have the mindset that Belle has, and whatever justification that they talk about in Sword Art Ontario, I really don't care. They're still in the wrong, Belle's in the right there, and
well, I think what's so interesting is like if you see like the insights to like Eyes when she first, I guess, met Belle, or like the first like what is it, like the first impressions of like him being like such a fast leveling up, they're not the best qualities that I would search for in a person. But also, if you really look at it, I think it's really interesting that Eyes and Liu are kind of the same character in that the role that they play in the story to Belle, also being like, a mentor and that kind of like figure that Belle looks up to. Obviously it's played out in the story differently, but the role is essentially the same, and it's just like hands down, like you can see how much better Liu is written and the complexity that meshes with not only the past world events but also the mainline events that Belle is interacting in. So I got to give it to Liu on this one. That may be recent book bias, but I don't care. I think it's working up to be something that the author is going to make work, even though maybe that wasn't his original direction. Yeah, I think it's kind of blossomed into the best choice.
Yeah, and another point
one of
the most possible one that we would like. Another thing that they both had tragic backstories. Now, in the main series, you don't get much about Eyes. I'm sure that's more in Sword Art Ontario, but how the character is affected by their tragic backstory, I like how it's so much connected with Liu, and it's not contrived, and it's realistic as far as how a person would respond to tragedy like that.
Yeah, it's definitely like very well done written PTSD.
Yeah. So overall, and then they just have a better dynamic. I mean, I'm so much more excited or interested when Liu is talking to Belle than like Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, so she's gonna not have an emotion and say like hi.
Exhibit A, book 15, when you got the interaction between Belle and Liu at the bar versus Eyes and Belle at the memorial service thing. It's like, yeah, those were not even bigger windows of differency. But we'll keep on making this quick. So we got the Hestia and Haruhime going up against
each other. So this is the semi-final. This is going to be a heartbreaker for me. It's really close. I would favor Hestia initially just because she's been around longer, and they have really cute interactions together. Hey, they slept on the same couch or bed for a little bit.
That's true,
cute.
for like at least a year, right?
Yeah.
So
well, timeline, so I don't know. But and I don't know. There's more opportunities for them to talk with Belle being the lead of the Familia, and if the book or the series, instead of being titled Danmachi, was titled Familia Chronicles, I could see it connecting with her and Belle. And I think if Zeus was watching this, he would pick Hestia for Belle as well. Well, he'd probably pick every one of the girls, but
because Zeus got around.
Yeah, but yeah, and I think like even at the beginning of this show, when Zeus is talking to Belle about going to the city, being a hero and saving someone, in my mind I think they wanted you to picture Eyes or someone else, but every time I look back at them, I'm like, that's like Hestia. So overall I think Hestia has a slight advantage over Haruhime, but it's really close, and I'm okay with going either way if you have a strong opinion.
So I think would waver more towards your opinion, and even though I go back and forth because Haruhime and Hestia kind of switch spots for me in terms of where I'd rank them personally, I think the big thing to consider is one of the main things that leads, I think, Hestia as a less probable option in terms of realistically if it would happen or not is the fact that, throughout all of their interactions between each other, Belle has always stayed in the same, I guess, feeling that, he looks at Hestia as his goddess. It's not like goes beyond that. And I think it's really been illustrated time and time again in a couple of other volumes that he looks as gods differently than people. That doesn't mean he can't change that, because he's already kind of changed that after the thing that Hermes happened and everything. But I think it's just interesting that there, even in the latest book, there hasn't been any sort of glimpses or insight to where he might be feeling a little bit differently or have a different affection of Hestia, and maybe that would lead into a romantic situation. So I think that's got to defaultly lean it to Haruhime to me. But if you feel strongly about going to Hestia, we'll give it. Does that ring true at all for you?
What gives you a more interesting final is my opinion. Is my question to you. I'm okay going Haruhime. If you think because of the god barrier, you think it's less likely.
Okay, so the flip side of that, right, is probably Haruhime is kind of slipping into the same scenario as Lily, right? Where she is being... It's kind of weird because she isn't. She's getting more involved in, like, the Familia, right? Where she's growing
Dungeon
stronger.
work,
yeah, and she's getting, at a better level to handle herself. And it's kind of weird because... I don't know if this will ruin her character or if they'll balance like a really great line, or they'll change it in a way that's very, very cool. But like Haruhime at heart seems like the damsel in distress, right? But she is kind of blossoming, or at least they're seeding seeds where she might become this like, warrior in a sense, or sorcerer warrior, whatever you want to say. So, because of that and all of her time being on that, does that wean it a little bit? I still think Haruhime is probably like the more plausible option, especially since, they're consistently getting into the dungeon and they're spending more time with one another as like, not only familia members, but, just combatant in arms. And you're sharing a lot of life and death moments that you don't necessarily get as much with Hestia. I feel like that, because bonding experiences, that leads to a stronger connection, I feel like sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So... I don't know. I think I still gotta say Haruhime just because of things.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that. Both characters I like a lot, but I'm okay with going with Haruhime as just a probability is them having more time to interact in the dungeon.
It's hard. It's really close, and I think it could still go either way. Next volume. So we'll be right back after this commercial break. We had to move inside because it's raining.
It is raining.
So, let's continue this bracket. So we got the final showdown with, I was going to say Haruhime, but I wasn't sure if that was right. That's
Haruhime?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just memeing.
Dude, my brain's so dead. And then Liu, obviously.
So here's the bracket,
Yeah. It's all boiled down to this. Michael, I'm going to let you go first because I'm...
I'll talk for a while. So, let's talk about Haruhime. So she was a character introduced pretty late in the series as far as we saw her story. Now, obviously, she's connected to the people from the Far East.
Really? I wouldn't have known after all those books they talked about.
I know. So there is probably one of the best character introduction scenes in the show is when Bell has to hide for his life, and I mean for his life, against certain women who want to take things away from him that should not be named, and he ends up with Haruhime. And there's a really fun dialogue. You don't know what's going to happen. And then even in the anime and in the book, both of them, I remember those key moments.
Yeah.
And you get to know more about her story, especially as I think it's Mikado and Welf later on, like investigate, like they see her.
It's true, yeah.
And investigate like how she's doing. So you have that moment. I think earlier in this video we talked about the moment with Wiene where Belle and Haruhime are basically like... pretending or playing the role as mother and father for her, and it's very cute. There's also several really cool scenes in the book. I don't remember which book it was. I think it's later on where Haruhime wakes up and sees Belle training, and and there's also one where I think it was like Belle couldn't sleep or whatever, and Haruhime.
Yeah, that was in the latest book.
Yeah, that was.
She's like. It's like out of all of them, I think she's like the most wifey, Like
she seems
she's just
chill.
there, like dependable, And like you said, like their first interaction is, as far as like an introduction, she's probably like one of like the best, if not the best, like first introduction of all the other women. I mean, even Liu, it's like I like her introduction, but it's more like it's different. It's not like wholesome. It's like in that like it's like there might be a fight kicking off, So it's like exciting for a different reason. And I don't know, like these two couldn't be more different. Obviously we've seen some development with Haruhime that is leading her to be a stronger character, but she's not like the tough as nails type. But I also do love the duality of Liu where we see a lot of her internal struggle, with like connecting with people and also obviously having like the PTSD like we mentioned before, and just seeing how she really is vulnerable and scared on the inside, and obviously she is capable and fierce on the outside, and it leads her to dealing with a lot of stuff. But there's just like a perfect puzzle piece with like her and Belle that like where she's lacking, Belle perfectly matches and like is able to help her with that. So I do love that dynamic a lot.
One other thing that's really cool is I'm not sure, there's a couple other characters, I think Cassandra, and then I think one of the people in the Loki Familia, historic tales of heroes, but Haruhime and Belle, they actually first bond over their love for those stories, and that's kind of something, there's a narrative in, I think it's book 7, where he really is like, Belle's like saving her, and it is like a hero's tale in many ways. It's framed in that way.
That's why I think, especially like before volume 14, I always pictured like regardless, like Haruhime almost fit like almost like the perfect piece to like that kind of a story, because I feel like Belle is like so much of a hero that you feel like he stereotypically like would match perfectly with like, I don't want to say like the damsel in distress, more like the princess, type of character.
Which she was.
Which, yeah, she is.
And her magic's OP.
Which helps them out a ton, which is also another thing of like, it's weird because before Liu had like the one book, I would say like Haruhime was starting to get like some of that like life and death scenarios that like really help bond characters together in a story like this. So I think for the longest time, like Haruhime was like, maybe not necessarily my first pick, but was like the image I thought of like the kind of girl I would expect Belle to either end up with eventually or kind of go after. And I think that's partially due to like just what Zeus told him right before he even got to the city. It was like, find these girls, save them,
Is it wrong to pick them up in the dungeon?
Exactly. Which, hey, if it is wrong, it doesn't matter because he didn't pick up her in a dungeon.
Exactly.
He picked her up somewhere else that a lot of people would probably say don't do. But hey, it's fine because she was pure. But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's always hard because all of these characters, at least most of the ones that are like with his familia, right, on a day-to-day basis, like they're all so well written that like really you could take any of them. And it's like, all right, as long as like the author spinned it right, like I'd be down for this probably. But I think at the end of the day, it's still gonna have to go to Liu just because. And I hate to be that guy where it's like, okay.
Well, talk about her before you make a decision. We gotta, we've talked about Liu a lot, but I want Josh to frame a perfect argument for why he thinks Liu is number one. So go ahead.
So, like I've said, like I think it's kind of hard now because it's been a while. But if you really go back and like watch the 2 videos we did with Volume 14, I think I can kind of sum it up a little bit better there. But like, just like if you see like Liu's whole arc and just kind of like where she was when she was with her familia, like Astria familia, and then kind of like the whole skirmish or like the Liu she became after dealing with the evils, and then kind of like the Liu we were introduced with at the beginning of the story, and then seeing how like almost like she's thinks that she's past it and she's like moved on from it, but she really hasn't. Like it hasn't like faced it truly. And then she's actually, confronted with this or challenged with that notion when she gets word that the evils are still alive and, leading into events that are transpire in Volume 14. And I just think that based on like how much tragedy and just like death and everything that she's gone through, and Belle was able to save her in that moment of like, not only like dealing with the one dude, Jura, right? But also the Juggernaut. Also, and I almost think it's like the best way to save somebody, right? Because like we've seen Belle do it time and time again where like he saves somebody from like, getting stabbed or like destroyed or whatever. And like all the other heroes do that too, right? But would like Eyes or like Otter or like any of these other heroes really like go in a way like they would save them, emotionally and in that way, like save them from themselves in a sense, right? And I think that's what Belle essentially did. And I think that's maybe the biggest example of why he is a hero in my mind. And it's just really cool because you could argue that like, yes, he did save her physically and like her life and stuff, but like she wasn't in danger, right? She purposely put her in that situation. And a lot of people will be like, that's her choice. Like she's an adventurer. Go like do what you need to do. I'm not going to risk my life for that. And I think because like Belle's like, no, like she's, she's our friend. We need to help her and all this other stuff that I've mentioned before. I think that's probably like my main point on like why Liu is probably the top pick right now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think the author didn't really see Liu as being a favorite character before he wrote Volume 14. If you read like
probably not. Yeah,
yeah. If you read the afterward, he talks about like, oh, I didn't realize this was going to be like a full thing about her, but once I started writing, I couldn't stop. I had to write all of it. She's a very complete character. You see that. You see the awkward interactions afterward, which is realistic. And then you also see, her. I don't want to get too much into spoilers of Book 14 if you haven't read it. Go out and read it, please. But there's a central narrative structure that you think is building throughout the novel, and she even acknowledges that there's going to be a big choice that she has to make. Mm-hmm. And I think, Belle's reaction to that and his actions in that book really connect them in a way that he's not connected with other characters. Yeah. Now, if it was personal choice, I think, there are some that I would be satisfied or about as satisfied if Belle was with as well. But it's a really close fight for the final, but I do understand why Josh is fully on Team Liu, even though her name is hard to spell.
Also, I just like, because of like, maybe it's my own fault for not like leaving it super open, right? But I just like the idea of like, having like a strong character be with another, like the central lead, where like she isn't like constantly in danger. Like somebody can't just like kidnap her and it's like that easily, right? Or like try to get to Belle by, doing whatever harm to Liu, right? And I think that's a more interesting choice going forward if that's the case. Plus, it's weird because it's almost like, I don't want to say advisor role, but it's almost like a very that mentor-esque, or just you can go and be your counselor almost in a sense, right? Because she has experiences that he doesn't have, and then she's also got things that she's lacking that he can help with, or that at least gives her calm. But I will say just one other thing before I give it over to Michael, because I think one of the things that you mentioned is the Liu not being or at least maybe the author not expecting Liu to go in this path before he started writing Volume 14. And it's actually really interesting when you look back, because Liu is still I would say hands down way better than Eyes, but before kind of her arc, it's kind of similar to Eyes in that we get the foundation that could be interesting and that could be cool, but there's not much work done. And I think one of the things that Liu had going for her was that she was constantly being engaged into the story. So whether that was helping out with the war game, whether that's going down in the dungeon to help them with runs and stuff like that, it kept you her in your mind when she's going on. But there wasn't much development past what was it, the first season's material, where she actually opens up a little bit to Belle about what happened to her old familia. And so I think also just seeing that the author put that foundation work, and maybe not necessarily knowing where it was going to lead right until he was writing, but actually utilizing it and turning it into something that does work very well, and I think came out to be very naturally written, is just, I think, another plus side to the series, because it's not frustrating when you're reading it and it doesn't just come out of nowhere and you're like, well, that was badly done, but all right, I'll take it. So but with Haruhime, there's still, I don't know, there's still some things that lead me to be connected to her in a way, but it's just, I don't know, I got Liu on the brain, what can I say?
I got Liu on my mind. So I think another point I'd just add, and Josh mentioned this when he's talking about the comparison between Eyes and Liu in general. I think a key reason why we don't like Eyes and why we like Liu, I think one of the fundamental reasons is personality, but also how both characters have a lot of trauma in their life. But I think Liu's perspective on life is not only more realistic, but also just more compelling and interesting as a character.
Yeah.
You get to see her emotions and her being slowly opening up to people, especially if you read the side story or just some elements in her mind, how over time she was in a darker place than Eyes was, and she was in harder circumstances too, but over time how she's changed and developed, and we don't really see that much development. Or obviously Haruhime, I'm not talking about her, but specifically Eyes and other girl characters like Aisha, or you don't really see that much character development throughout the story, whereas as of now I think Liu's had the most character development as a girl character in the show so far. So that's another reason why she's so compelling as a love interest and just a character in general.
Well, and that's what's interesting too, right? Is because Liu sorry, I gotta shorten this down. But basically it's Liu and Haruhime probably, if you take all of the girls, probably have the most time or chapters given to them on looking at their backstory, or just kind of maybe a peek in their mind in general, right? Because I feel between the last book especially, again, you had the instance where it takes a peek at Liu with Astra Familia, and then obviously her moments with what she's thinking about Belle, when he's trying to talk to her at the bar. But then you also have Haruhime, that chapter where it's talking about getting stronger, trying to not make it to her. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I got this exactly right, so I might be misremembering, but I feel the gist of it was she wants to be it so that she doesn't want to be in the situation where she has to be saved by Belle, because she loves him so much that she doesn't want him to get hurt on her expense, right? And then again, you saw her backstory a little bit back in the Far East, right? So it's weird how they gotta have similar amounts of backstory, but Liu's is still manages to come out on top on terms of depth of what is actually shown.
Yeah, so we don't want to make this too long. I think that's a pretty good analysis. So this is up to what volume are we up to on material?
Volume 15.
So up to volume 15, our champion or who most likely to win Belle, including factors of likability of the character development, likeliness of them actually being with Belle and finishing the story, and other criteria. I guess at this point you have voted Liu, and I will give a slight edge to Liu as well over Haruhime, but I would be happy with either one in the end.
Yeah, so overall, just factoring in all those and averaging it out, I would say Liu's on top right now. We'll see if that changes after Volume 16, because I've heard there's some big mix-ups and stuff, so we'll see. I do think, obviously there's some close calls for like number 1, probably 2 and 3. So I think, I don't know if in terms of like this bracket, can you decipher this bracket, a man that's more into sports than I, of like necessarily what is like the top 4?
Okay, yeah, sure. So Liu will be number 1. Then we have Haruhime at number 2. Hestia and Aisha, either 3 or 4. Okay. And then notable other characters probably would be Lily, and Freya. I would probably put that as the top 6 right now. So.
Okay. So, and see, I think that's not far off, actually, because I think any one of those right now, it's kind of weird because we don't know how long the series is going to be, right? So this could be halfway through the series. This could not even be like a quarter for the series. So, that still leaves a lot of options to be up. But right now, I'm curious to see, what is your number 1 pick? I know it's been a while since people have said who they want Belle to be with, but hey, a lot's changed. Has yours pick changed? Or are you stubborn in your ways? Let us know. And we probably will be back for like a part 3, like 10 books down the road. So expect that.
Or if there's enough questions on this video, we may do a quick fire just focused on.
Yeah. Just trashing down all of their. No, I'm just kidding.
We're just kidding.
All right. Well, that'll be it for this. We'll see you guys for the next video. And as always, peace, addicts.
Later.